Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Iraq Veteran 8888 and Argos Ordnance. And today I wanted to sit down with Chad and kind of have a chat about Argos, what we want to accomplish with this endeavor and, some of the services that we're going to be offering and really just kind of fill y'all in on some of the methodology, some of the ideas we've came up with, why we're doing what we're doing. And it's really interesting because, we initially got the SOT and the manufacturing license set up just to make it a lot easier for us to get transfers in. And, because we're getting so many guns into demo and because we like playing with machine guns for the channel and being able to demo things for you guys, it just made sense to obviously, get our own license. And we always, wanted to get into making guns and everything like that and trying our best to, service the 2A community as well. So we want to talk about that a little bit and talk about some of the cool projects that are coming up and, just kind of fill y'all in on the wheres and whys and all that sort of stuff. And I know the last year, man, for you has been pretty freaking stressful getting all this together. I'm sure that goes without saying.
There's probably a meme for that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the gray hair running, man. You get a touch of gray going.
Dude, man. Just with the family, the new baby, and all this stuff, I started learning CAD last year, and I spent days, we're past hours, days and weeks on projects learning how to CAD, and for you people out there that don't know, computer-aided design.
Yeah. So
it's where you take your ideas and you put them down on the computer and you model them out into potentially items that can be manufactured and you can sell. And you can maybe make a little bit of money on them, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but that, and just trying to ramp this whole FFL thing up because, technically, you gotta do something with an FFL to maintain it, right? And having one for the channel and just being able to get everything in like we mentioned and make things a lot easier for what we do, right? Instead of having somebody come out and babysit machine guns and stuff all the time, we can do it ourselves, which is fantastic.
And that's only one component of it.
It's only one component.
I think the plan was always certainly to do something cool with it.
I always wanted to do something more. We've been in this industry forever. And I just always felt like there was something more that I personally had to offer because I had so many ideas for things, and especially with suppressors. After getting into them almost a decade ago, I guess, and working with some close or some manufacturers that are pretty local here and doing testing and R&D and things like that and kind of seeing how things work on the back end and being privy to some of the things in the developmental phase that were really eye-opening on baffle technology and things like that and manufacturing processes. I took an old design and kind of revamped it and started designing some cans, and I've got some prototypes being made right now. So there will be suppressors that came out of my brain using kind of old school designs with some modern flair to them and modern manufacturing techniques. That'll hopefully be some pretty awesome suppressors, and I've got one that's literally been the bane of my existence for a year. So, and it's frustrating when you've been working on something and you start seeing other designs that are similar start popping out. But I designed a DMLS, a metal 3D printed 12 gauge gas flow through suppressor. That
I've seen it.
Yeah, there's nothing like it on the market, and I wanted to do something like that because I felt like everything that was out there is just gas face. Everything you see is just gas face. We've shot so many 12 gauges suppressed, and it's just oh my God, it's god awful. It increases the cyclic rate so much. Well, why not let that excess gas go somewhere?
That's right.
So, and nobody really 3D prints them that I've seen. So that's a concept that'll be coming down the pipeline, and been working on, gas piston system that kind of combines features of the FAL with AR-180, some of the best stuff. And it's a no-pin style, so it's a tension type system, some of the other stuff that's out there. Proprietary gas journal size. Designed some hand guards that haven't come to fruition yet because, look, honestly, this stuff costs a lot of money. To get a die for an extrusion made is thousands and thousands of dollars. And, just trying to save up the capital to be able to, start working on these things and prototyping stuff is just ungodly expensive.
Yeah. So if any of y'all out there want to invest, hit me up, okay? we like investors. So if y'all want to help us out with some of these projects, I'm not going to complain with that. Okay, it is interesting because you and I have always been so much like mad scientists when it comes to like just dreaming up all of this stuff, and it's kind of weird to look back on the meltdowns. Because, and look, I'm just going to say right here, I know people have been asking for more Meltdown videos. It's one of the most hotly requested things that we get. Yes, we're doing more. In fact, we're going to do a Meltdown on one of the Argos uppers because why not? I mean, whether it's some shameless self-promotion or not, hey, we need to know where we stand. We need to know where we size up in this whole thing. But the point is, we will be doing more Meltdown videos. I promise those are coming this summer. I just want to, get some stuff together to do those right and everything. But the Meltdowns provided some really interesting insight for us. And it was always, I think, the first video that we did of that type where I was like, hey, we're just going to shoot this thing full auto until something bad happens. And that there was no rhyme or reason. There was no conscious scientific undertaking or endeavor that we thought, oh, we're going to discover some greater meaning to what happens when you run a gun longer than you probably should. We just did it because it was fun. And that's what we have to remember. We have to keep in the back of our minds that guns at the end of the day should be fun. They should be functional tools. They should have a purpose, but you should be able to have fun with a gun. And sometimes shooting a gun until it catches on fire, quite frankly, is a ton of fun. But we did learn some things, right? We learned how ARs fail the most often and what the components are that fail first in piston and DI guns. And we put that data out there for the rest of the people to see as well. We shared that data, and we didn't try to doctor it or change it or hide anything. So over time, with all the suppressor testing and all of the ARs that we've shot and burned up over the years and some of the torture testing we've done on various guns and some of the torture testing that we've, witnessed other people do on other channels, you kind of begin to see what works and what doesn't, and which design aspects you probably want to keep and which ones you probably want to try to improve on a little bit. And, it is hard to think, well, is the AR perfect? Can it be improved on? Anything can be improved on. And it is a great system. And I know the AR was not without its teething efforts in the early days. And look, if you talk to Vietnam veterans, they'll tell you that the AR or the M16 is a piece of garbage, and it's the worst gun ever, and all of this sort of stuff. And look, in the context of Vietnam War, they probably are correct. That was not without its teething issues, especially with the ball powders they were using that would foul up really bad. Of course, we know now that the AR is a very, very proven system. So I believe that everything we do, we really want to try to work around that platform because it is consistent and reliable and has stood the test of time. But I think there's even yet still room for improvement. And I did look in great detail at this upper that Chad is talking about, and I'm telling you, it's epic. Y'all are going to love it, and it's going to be so awesome. And I might have to sell a kidney and see if we can prototype a few and do some testing because I really want to see what these are about. Now, we initially offered the 18-inch gun and the 16-inch gun because that seemed like a natural progression. If you saw the video that Chad put up not too long ago on the 18-inch SPR, that particular type of gun is a gun that Chad and I are both really big fans of. We've been shooting 18-inch and 20-inch SPRs over the years, and they are just fantastic guns that really do deliver the goods, and they do get the full potential out of a 5.56, is getting that 20-inch barrel or 18-inch barrel. 18 is a nice happy medium where, you don't lose a ton of velocity going from a 20 to an 18, but you do lose a little bit of length, and that makes the gun a little more maneuverable. But I'm really excited. I have seen the suppressor designs that he's come up with. They're epic. We are in the process of prototyping some of these suppressor designs and getting some in so that we can do some more detailed testing. We may have to make some tweaks to the files, and we don't want to give up the goat too much on that just yet. But I'm really excited to see, where all this is going to go. And we will be offering, I know Chad's going to discuss this too, but just to mention, we will be offering some really cool stuff. I don't want to give up too many details just yet because I want it to be a surprise, but we'll show off some of the neat things that we're going to be carrying, some soft goods and accessories and things that I think you're going to like, maybe even some stuff for your canine friends possibly. So you never know. we've got a huge log of random things that we want to make, and the thing is, it's like there's so many things to make in so little time.
That's the thing. Like when you're wearing many hats, you're trying to do everything. Like, I'm trying to film and edit and CAD, like do design work, and then try to manage the bit of the shop. I mean, it's like literally I'm a one-man show over there doing compliance and getting everything together for these builds and doing all the back-end stuff, all the bookkeeping. Like, I do everything over there, and it's inundating sometimes. But
something I want to mention real quick is that, I want to be fair and concise about this as I possibly can be. You've noticed a few of like the reads and the articles and things I've done recently. You might have seen a few little editing boo-boos and a few little audio blips and a few little like things where it's like, hey, what the heck's going on? Like some little mistakes. I've been taking on some of the editing chores to try to help, get those off of Chad's back. And quite frankly, look, I'll be perfectly 110% transparent. Chad's not stepping away from the channel or anything like that. But in the big scheme of things, it's important to realize when a person's efforts are better put in another area, right? So it's not to say that he's not going to film for us anymore or edit anymore, but I am trying to take some of those duties off of his back just to make it easier and to free up some of his time so that we can, hopefully do more with Argos. And so that's kind of the goal. And also I want to reassure everyone, I don't want anyone thinking that the amount of stuff we're putting out on the channel is going to suffer in any way. We're still going to be putting out tons of video reviews and Five Guns videos and gripes. In fact, on gripes, I wanted to mention, not saying, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're bringing on different hosts for Gun Gripes. Chad is still the co-host of Gun Gripes, but we are going to probably wind up going to a more guest-based format where we will be bringing on some guests. So if you know anybody in our space that would love to be a guest on Gun Gripes, send them our way. We'll definitely have a look at it. We've been doing a lot of StreamYard stuff. You guys might recall where we had the stuff, like I interviewed Michael Cargill about the Cargill v. Gardland case and everything, and that's great. So some of the stuff we do over StreamYard, that's been fun. I interviewed, I guess it's kind of a review, but I interviewed Thomas Massey. That was awesome, and I really appreciate Rep Massey coming on to have a chat with me about things that are going on, and we're big fans of Thomas Massey around here. At least I am. So with the StreamYard, that's great. But the point I wanted to articulate and really drive home is that Chad is still an integral part of what we do here at the channel, and that I don't want anyone thinking that the content, in terms of the frequency of content, the quality of content, which my editing skills are probably not quite as good as Chad's, but we will do our best, I promise. And look, some of my old school videos are not terrible, okay? We'll just have to, I'm going to have to get a little more clever, and we're probably going to bring in a few guests for some cool stuff. So don't worry, the content on the channel, everything's going to be just fine in terms of that. But we're trying to create an environment where Chad can really, put his efforts to work and all of this CAD stuff and all of his design work. And at the end of the day, I want Argos to be a way that our fans can, support our efforts and get something directly out of it, and something, good quality and everything. I know there for a while we were doing the man cans and all. We kind of backed off on man cans because we felt like the subscription world was getting a little saturated. There was just a lot going on, and we decided to kind of lay back on that for a while. We may do that in the future, but if I ever do bring it back, it's going to come back in a way that is going to be absolutely epic. And I want, the items to be like super well thought out, super high end, and yeah, probably going to cost more, but you got to pay to get good stuff. And I don't want the quality of what I do to suffer as a result of price points that I'm trying to meet in a given product. And I guess that's something interesting to think about, Chad, is, everyone seems like when it comes to ARs, for instance, and selling ARs as a company, which we're super, super virgin at. I mean, we've been in the gun industry forever, and we know kind of how things work, and we understand supply lines, and we got great relationships with people. But at the end of the day, once the rubber meets the road and you start selling stuff, you kind of see where things are really going to lie. The point is, anyone can have a race to the bottom. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm certainly not. When you look at groups like PSA, those guys are doing a fine job of putting functional tools in the hands of people that, maybe they don't have a ton of money to spend, but they still deserve to be armed. And, that's commendable. And we are going to have, can I talk about that?
Yeah.
We are going to have some more entry-level ARs that we're going to be building that are going to be absolutely epic. Why don't we talk about, you want to talk a little bit about how those are going to be set up?
Yeah, so when I first started thinking about, getting components and everything in for Argos branded ARs, I thought about, the first real, kind of higher end build that I did, which was the 18-inch SPR, right? And then you were like, man, I like that. You built one. Then you built another. And then I started changing mine. You painted mine. And then it, literally, I discussed this in the video, but just briefly, but literally that rifle became like a test bed for gas systems, DI, piston, suppressor testing,
optics,
accuracy work, optics work. I mean, it's had all kinds of crap done to it. It's had thousands and thousands of rounds put through it over the years, and it's still just a workhorse. And it's just a fantastically accurate gun, very precise. And I thought that, I definitely wanted to offer an SPR to start with too, but also use carbines of a similar fashion. But, when you're looking at components and everything out there, it's just like, well, you can buy this or that. And I didn't want to have parts on these rifles for sale that I wouldn't use myself and that didn't have a very specific purpose. I mean, when I looked at gas systems, I didn't want to just do a regular old gas block because the Achilles heel of the AR is the gas port and how much gas is flowing through it, right? It's the only thing on a basic gun that you can't really have any control over other than adding extra spring weights in the rear and adding buffer weights to try to slow the cyclic rate down and to kind of keep that bolt from unlocking, but you're still abusing the system, right? So I did a lot of research and I'd seen the rifle speed gas blocks. And these aren't cheap gas blocks. I don't think people understand that they're 10 times the cost of a normal gas block. They're $200. But in my opinion, just after using them a bit, they're probably one of the most robust and reliable systems out there for DI. And the thing that really sold me on them is they're toolless. And they're literally just a few components. So
one thing that I can appreciate about your choice of that component is that, we do shoot guns suppressed a lot. And because we run such a variety of different suppressors on, for instance, the 18-inch rig that he originally built, or the multiple ones he originally built, we always figured, okay, some are more gassy, some are less gassy, and you start to kind of learn, well, maybe an adjustable gas block is a super important thing to have. So not only that, but then you start factoring in the different projectile weights. Some ammo is more powerful than others, some is faster, some is slower. Then it starts to become, okay, as the gun begins to get dirtier, maybe you need to crank gas up a little more, get a little more gas in there if you need to. So having that adjustable gas block is super important to really tuning the gun in for your specific needs with not only the weight of ammo, but also whether you're running suppressed or unsuppressed or any combination thereof. So I think that's smart to set it up in that way, and it does drive the cost on the guns up a little bit. It is important for people to understand that, anyone could just put together any gun with any old component, but I do appreciate one thing about Chad that I can say is that he's always been very meticulous in everything that he does, and everything is always for a reason, and he always crunches those numbers and really gets that data in, and I think that's important to make the distinction of. I think it's a good choice on the gas block, and then for the barrels, you went with the Ballistic Advantage barrels?
Partially, yeah. So I want to go back to the gas block before I talk about the barrels, but look, another reason I chose rifle speed is because it's toolless, like I mentioned.
Sure.
Right? You reach up, you turn the control, you got 12 settings.
And if for whatever reason it does get hung up or seized, you can just grab a rifle case and kind of, I noticed that a rifle case fits in there perfect at the webbing, and you can.
The thing is, if you can get to the webbing, because the way that they're designed is the actual control knob itself, they have varying lengths, so you can have a longer rail system, and the gas block can sit up under the rail, but you still have access to the control without having to have a long tool or anything. One of the major problems, and look, I love Superlative Arms. I love their gas blocks. I've used them in various configurations over the years. They're fantastic, but they're not grunt proof. and this is another thing, I've just seen so many of the adjustable gas blocks that have a really fine screw, like an adjustment plunger, right? And it's got real fine threads on it. And in the case of the Superlative, it's got this little cut in the middle of it. It's just like a little relief cut, and that's where the actual gas will flow up and flow out of the front of the block, because they're a bleed-off gas block. They've got a restrictive mode if you turn it all the way in. If you get to the midpoint and you go out, you're in bleed-off mode, so you're bleeding that excess gas off, right? But a lot of people will not lubricate those properly with like anti-seize to help keep carbon lock from happening, and they'll go to adjust it one day down the line when they change the configuration, or they may put a different suppressor on it, or whatever the case is, and they break that screw off in the gas block. It's happened more times than not, and it's one of the chief complaints about those kind of gas blocks. And Superlative's not the only brand out there with them, but like I said, they're fantastic blocks, but there's certain care that has to be, done in order to keep them running properly.
You wanted something that the average Joe could abuse and it not really be
Yes.
so much of a consequence.
And also,
that you could just run something through an ultrasonic
Yes.
or
Yeah.
lube it down with a whole bunch of oil,
Yeah.
and it's probably just going to be fine.
so also, like if you're running a suppressor,
And that's what Joe's going to do.
yeah. So if you're running a suppressor on like, say you've got a rifle like like the A115, right? It's got a 13.7-inch rail on it, and it's a mid-length gas system. So when you put a suppressor on it, you don't really have a lot of wiggle room up front to put a long Allen key in to adjust a standard adjustable gas block that has the control on the front, right? So you have to take your suppressor off and do all this, blah, 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 all right? And the adjustable blocks that have a set screw on the side, usually they don't have like a locking system to it. So it doesn't have a detent or anything that locks the set screw in place. You just have to, put a little Loctite or rock set on it and just hope it stays in place for the most part, or just let it get carbon locked in place. And it's just the same problem. The rifle speed, if it does get a little bit dirty, right, just put a little CLP on the plunger each shooting session, rotate the block a couple of times, and boom, you're right back into position.
You know what's smart about that is that's really how the whole AR works too. So let's say that you're in the field and you're running a DI gun that, they poop in their own mouth. Look, it is what it is. But they also self-clean, so they'll blow all that garbage out. So if, let's just say, you may not be able to do some good maintenance on your rifle, depending on the situational circumstances, like, I don't know, maybe you're in the middle of a gunfight or whatever, right? You just throw some more lube on that bad boy and it'll keep things moving well enough. And, I think it's also been, maybe Chad can make sure I'm correct here, but I've always read as well that, I know I make a big deal about the location of the gas rings on the bolt. And there's been a lot of people that have said, man, you can just pull those things out completely and the thing will still run depending on how it's set up. I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I trust that, but there are a lot of people that tend to think that arrangement is not as important as people really place emphasis on. Now, I'm old school. I'm a guy that just comes from like old school military TM on the M16A1, A2, and it's like that's what they show in that diagram is for the location of those gas rings. I didn't mean to get into that in too much detail, but the DI system I think is definitely, look, I'm going to draw some hatred here because, look, I love piston systems. They're great. I have an LMT that is a fantastic gun. It really is, and it's a piston system. It uses I believe it's it's not the titanium nitriding. What is the
nickel boron?
The nickel boron coating on all of the components, and it is a fantastic gun, but it's a different methodology. It does have a little more recoil. It is a little louder suppressed. The DIs just seem like they suppress a lot better. They're smoother shooting, and I swear that they're more accurate as well. Definitely the accuracy is good.
Yeah, the general consensus with the accuracy potential of DI versus piston is that, it's only the gas that's traveling back through the gas tube back to the bolt, and by the time the gas gets to the bolt and starts actuating the system, the cyclic action, the bullet's already out of the barrel. With a piston, when the gas hits that port, it's immediately moving that piston rod, that op rod, right? So then you're introducing movement and vibrations and, things like that. That's the general idea.
I always thought it was so strange how the scars shoot so well, considering they have that giant reciprocating hunk of mass of a bolt. And it is the strangest thing, because you would think that it's not the bolt driving to the rear that's the problem. It's when it stops, when it goes forward. and that's what puts the most hurt on your dang optic. And when we went up to visit Leupold, they showed us this Punisher machine that they have, and it's made specifically for testing optics. And wouldn't you know that the baseline setup is set up for SCAR, because they know that it's probably the heaviest chunk of mass that's moving inside a modern autoloader. It's so strange when you think about it. But the reason I'm articulating this point, or at least the reason I'm bringing it up, is so that y'all understand that when Chad chooses a component for a rifle, it's for a very, very specific reason, because we have observed these things over the years, and we've gotten a lot of information and learned a lot, you know. And when you take those things that you learn and apply it to something to make it a little better, that's always a good thing.
Well, the idea behind these guns, or at least this initial lineup, these are like the premium series, but the idea behind it was, you know, out of the box, it's all you ever need. I mean, that's the idea. Like,
put an optic on it.
Yeah, put an optic on it and go. And don't mess with anything. Just keep it clean. Do the maintenance. Right?
That's right.
So, anyways.
If you're watching and you want a rifle speed gas block to upgrade your gun, you can order one through Argos if you want.
Ding.
We do offer all the components that we put on all of our rifles are available for sale. Now, the pages may not be built just yet, but Chad, that's just more crap to do.
ever since you have been like posting things, I'm thinking, well, I don't have that page built yet, I guess. Well, I got, look, remember the hats?
Web developer. Okay.
I know, dude. I'm so bad. I'm an enabler. But hey, I mean, look, we have ideas. We have, you know.
But yeah, so the barrels, that first meltdown we did, we used like a Fax and nitrided barrel, right? And yeah, they're not meant for sustained full auto fire.
No.
Right? It totally ripped the rifling out of there the whole 9 yards. It burned the finish off of it. But for the money, like the high polish, you know, precision rifled nitrided barrels are some of the best out there for just the general Joe, right? Somebody who's not going to go and put their upper on a M16 lower and go, you know, do a meltdown on it. They're just going to go out, they're going to shoot it occasionally, and they might take some training classes and run it kind of hard during the day, but all semi-auto use, they'll last 10 to 20,000 rounds in a lot of cases. I mean, that's a very long lifespan for a barrel. That's more rounds than most people will ever put into a rifle in their entire lifetime. Right, so
that's a lot of rounds to put through one single gun.
So
I mean, like the 18-inch gun that I have, I mean, it's probably had since the time I built it, well, Chad built it, but in the time I've had it, I've probably put 2,000 rounds through it, and honestly, that's probably being generous. Like 2,000 rounds is nothing. That gun is barely broke in. I mean, because those barrels just hold up so great.
They do. Now, the raw stainless barrels won't last quite as long, but they'll still last 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 rounds, maybe more, just depending on what you put through. I haven't
really seen any degradation of accuracy, so it's holding up pretty good.
But the barrels in the carbines, you know, they're 4150 chrome moly nitrided. They're a great value, and they work exceptionally well. They're from Ballistic Advantage, and they're mid-length. I mean, mid-length is the only way to go on a carbine. So unless you're running something so short that you can't use a mid-length gas system, it's going to have a mid-length gas system on it, because Crane did a huge study a while back, and they definitively proved that the mid-length gas system makes not only the rifles last longer, it doesn't beat the components up as much, but it's much smoother shooting, you know, lower cyclic rate. Everything that you want to make an AR last.
Now we're talking about when you go from down to a 16-inch barrel and shorter.
Well, or
you're running the mid-length gas system even on the 18-inch gun.
No, mid-length is on the 16. Like it'll be on the 14.5, maybe 13.9s that are pinned. The 18-inch systems are rifle.
Right.
Yeah, rifle.
Obviously,
only.
why wouldn't you have that extra expansion?
Yeah,
you know,
you don't want that much dwell time.
Gotcha.
So, but anyways, on the carbines, you got the Ballistic Advantage barrel, and then there's an option for Centurion Arms. It's a regular like 4150 chrome moly barrel, but it's phosphated and chrome lined, so that gives you a little bit more longevity under real super hard use, maybe limited full auto fire. I mean, you know, chrome line barrels, they last and they last and they last.
I think the generally accepted school of thought on chrome line barrels is that, yeah, they last a long time, and they're very easy to clean, and it does help with maintenance and everything, and you almost can't kill a chrome line barrel, but you probably do have the accuracy probably suffers a bit.
A little bit, but modern.
Not quite as accurate as,
You'd be surprised. I mean, most of the chrome line barrels that are out there nowadays, just the manufacturing process that we have now, you can easily get a barrel that'll shoot MOA with match ammunition that's chrome lined.
Well, maybe the manufacturing techniques have gotten better because I know, like old school Colts and stuff, like some of them shoot really great and some of them don't. It's like you kind of, heck, even in the military, we would have some rifles that we just swore shot really like so much better, and we don't know if maybe that's just because that particular gun wasn't cleaned to death, like with improper cleaning techniques. I mean, look, Joe, we would see guys that would take look, I'm one of those guys. We would take blanks and shoot cleaning rod sections out of the guns, and shoot them into trees. I mean, like, pretty sure that's not very good for the gun. And,
probably not.
Not good for the accuracy. Not, you're probably nicking a.
That's not how we.
Joe does dumb stuff with guns, so over time, I'm pretty sure some of those rifles were not as kept as well as they needed to be.
Let's just say that's not how we test fire our rifles. So
look, I promise you that at Argos, we do not shoot cleaning rod sections out of the gun before we ship it. So don't worry about that. So
on the SPR, the available barrel options are the Ballistic Advantage 416R stainless, like I used in the video. It's black nitrided, and the 416 barrels, they just shoot so exceptionally well. And with the nitriding process, it's an inexpensive process as far as like barrel treatments go, but it can almost exponentially extend the life of the barrel, and that's why I decided to go with it too. The other options, the Centurion Mark 12, which, man, they built them on these, like Douglas blanks, and it's just a raw stainless barrel built to the Mark 12, like crane specs. It's 1-in-7 twist. It's meant for 5.56, and they built it around the Mark 262 loads from Black Hills.
I do feel like the Mark 12 is kind of peak AR.
Yeah.
I've always liked that configuration.
So
like
this is
SPR.
Yeah. So this whole build is kind of like a faux Mark 12. I like the slightly extended rail system, which they use a 15-inch rail on there on these guns, and it's a rifle speed RS7533 block, so it just pops out of the end. You got plenty of room for access to the control, but it's like everything you need, nothing you don't. You got plenty of rail space to put that bipod way out there, and I just think it's a fantastic rig. And
I think it was definitely a natural progression for us to use Geisley triggers because we're real good friends of Bill, and he's such a good dude, and he always welcomed us. Early on when we first met him, he was always so adamant about like, hey, you got to try this, and he would always give us stuff to try out, and we got to really put every single trigger that Geisley makes through its paces through a variety of different rigs and a variety of different gas lengths and barrel lengths and things like that, and it's just hard to beat a good old Geisley SSA. They're just it is the gold standard for a drop-in AR trigger for sure. They make a fine trigger.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the SSAs, they bumped the cost up quite a bit. I mean, right? So like when you think about a premium gun, between the gas block and the trigger, that's over $400 right there. Whereas on a standard rig, you might be looking at $25-$30 for those components for a standard AR that you can upgrade, which like we said in the beginning of the video, we'll be offering a little bit lower tier gun, but it's still going to have high-end features. Yeah.
Well, we've learned like what in the AR you can compromise on and what you can't.
A good trigger is definitely not something that you want to compromise on.
Again, in fact, we've laid all this out in videos. We've given you the formula already, right, that we use to figure these things out. But again, like I always go back to the barrel, rail system, and the trigger.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the rail system, so this was a hard choice because I really wanted to use Geisley's, but I just couldn't get past the cost on them. The dealer cost is quite high. The units that you need to purchase to get the best deals are high, and they're a really top end rail, and with good reason. They're fantastic rail systems. But I started looking around for systems that would meet my requirements and still had similar features to like the Geisley's that we've had so much good luck with, and I discovered Cross Machine and Tool. So I've had a little bit of experience with their products over the years, but I bought one of their rail systems just as a sample to try out, and I fell in love with it. So it's like a super thick extrusion, kind of on the top end of what M-LOK specifications are, but you get all that increased rigidity of the rail system. I've used BCMs over the years too, and they're on the low end. They're real thin, very lightweight, but highly flexible as well. And I've used a BCM on my 6AR over the years, and I find that when I load the bipod real heavy, the POI shifts are pretty extreme, right? So you're putting all that forward pressure on the gun, the rail system's kind of torquing, right? And the barrel nuts on those systems are real short, all right? There's not really a lot of wiggle room there. With the cross machine tools, the barrel nuts are real long, like the Geisleys are. They come in at a much better price point, not only for me, but also on the consumer level. And they just have all the high-end features that you want. And they also have built-in QD sockets on both sides. So they've got these nitrided steel inserts, and you've got your QD point right there for like carbine use and whatnot. But those are the UHPR. They're the HDX Mod 2s is what I decided to use on those. And they've got anti-rotation tabs on the back. They've got a rail like retention system that doesn't torque on the rail or anything crazy. It just kind of integrates right there into the barrel nut and puts torque on them. We torque everything to the exact specification that's supposed to. Everything's lubricated like it's supposed to be. There's Loctite or Vibratite or Rockset or anti-seize wherever it's needed. Like, I'm building these guns like I would build one for myself.
And again, we've articulated all of our reasoning for these choices in previous videos. We've laid the foundation out in all the content that we've ever made on YouTube. So it's not like, our methodology and the method to the madness is not already out there in the public.
It's kind of what partially led to this decision to build guns and offer them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And like I think it's a 47 or 48 point quality control checklist that'll go along with every single gun. It'll have a mark on it to where everything that was supposed to be done is done.
Look,
like,
you got to understand, this guy, like, if he had to, he would probably log his bowel movements, man, like in like time.
As I get older,
mass, like we weighed it. Oh, it weighed this much. It's 50 kilograms.
Hey, look, as we get older, we may have to do that because our doc might say, yeah, I need to know what you're going to be eating for the next week so we can figure out what the hell's going on with you.
But it's just cool. And Argos was really just a natural progression. We've been making all these videos for years, and we've been, trying to educate the masses for years and provide educational videos that are in an educational context, which I know we were actually discussing earlier. We do plan on doing a lot more of our redneck science stuff, so expect some more cool body armor tests and some ballistics gel tests and ammo tests. We are going to get back to doing some of that stuff. Just here for a while, I want to mention that real quickly as well. I did take on the Georgia State Director position for GOA, and we have been doing a lot of article reads and more of the political sort of stuff and discussing more about our rights and everything, and really just trying to fight off these attacks on our rights from these politicians and things in terms of the more of the, let's just say, advocacy side of things and more of the political advocacy side of things. So I know we haven't really done quite as much entertaining content as you might be used to getting on our channel, but understand that what we do is necessary. And while I wish that I could just shoot guns all day, the reality is that we have to use our platform for a force of good. And so I don't want anyone to think that we're still not going to be posting all kind of cool gun stuff, because obviously we've still got gun reviews coming. In fact, I just checked an email on my phone from a company that I've been talking to, and it looks like we're probably going to be getting a Benelli N4 entry model, a 14-inch entry model, so we might be doing a video on that soon.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, add it to the list. Just add it to the list. But there are a lot of cool things on the horizon, some things that I can't exactly talk about just yet that we still kind of want to keep under wraps, but I'm really excited to see where this whole thing will go, and these guns are really well thought out. Every component that Chad has put together on these is very well researched and very carefully weighed and considered. And it made sense to do the 18-inch gun first, and of course offering a 16 is a no-brainer. I hope I can say this without getting scolded, but we will eventually offer a pistol, obviously. Mm-hmm. we're kind of waiting to see how this brace thing is going to sort itself out, because I really regret that we weren't able to get these guns ready in time to sell them while we could still, do braces and all. But I think if current court proceedings are any indication, I think that the brace situation is going to get thrown to the nether pretty quickly, and I think we should be able to start selling braces again. And I don't want to offer just any brace. So I think once things get back to somewhat a sense of normalcy, you're definitely going to see a pistol from us. We can build SBRs now, of course, if that's something you really want. You could let us know. But as it currently stands, hope I can say that we will eventually offer a pistol. Let's talk about that real quick. So what have we deemed to be kind of like the perfect barrel length? And do you
11.5.
An 11.5?
Yeah. I know people they like their 10.3s, they like their 10.5s, they like their 7s. So yeah, eventually we'll probably have all those uppers on the site. But my personal preference is either an 11.5 or a 12.5 inch barrel.
I agree.
So
I think anything shorter than that, you're losing so much velocity.
Yeah. Those why
did FN do a 7-inch scar?
I think they should have done a 12.5.
Oh, come on!
It made a lot more
That's what
sense.
I'm saying.
But
Why?
I mean,
why?
Because people don't want to stand in front of a 7-inch gun.
Well, of course they don't. I mean, look, I'm not suggesting that it's not dangerous, but you're almost there. Why not seize the moment? Oh my gosh, what were they thinking?
But it's cool. I guess they figure truck rig, that sort of thing.
I
whatever.
love scars. Make no mistake, the scar is awesome. I'm not saying I don't like the idea of a scar pistol, because I do. I just don't like the idea of a 7-inch scar pistol.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I've got some plans to do some short, 300 blackout. I mean, look, the pistol uppers are really where it's at for 300 blackout, because unless you're shooting supers regularly, you don't need all that extra barrel. If mainly you're shooting subs, you only need 6-inch, 7-inch barrel, maybe up to 9-inch max, and it's a short pistol length gas system, so you can take that system down to nothing. And you've got companies like Discreet Ballistics who tailor ammunition to varying barrel lengths. So they have one barrel length range for subsonics that are up to 16 inches, and then they've got another one that's under 9 inches. And you're still in that subsonic range. You don't have to compromise on your velocity. You're still getting maximum velocity out of your short barrel with a specific ammunition type. And their bullets are absolutely terrific. I mean, there are so many videos and photos of people killing deer and hogs and anything under the sun with those subsonic projectiles.
Well, we certainly do have a good test bed for doing all of that with all of the hunting opportunities that we have. For testing out projectiles and different systems and all. And I know I don't want to get into this too much in too much detail in this particular video, because I know we're kind of getting long. So some of y'all that are still here, we're almost an hour in. I know that. I'll just say that I do want to build a short 6-arc to test. I know that was one point of contention. We were kind of going back and forth in a few of the previous videos. I think it was what is the perfect rifle, where I was suggesting that, hey, maybe we should try a shorty 6-arc and just see how it performs. See if the projectiles do well at distance and expand, and just to kind of play around with expansion thresholds and accuracy, and just kind of see what a short one could do.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was just looking on Centurion. They have a 12.5 inch raw stainless match barrel, and they also have 18-inch barrels with either a rifle length or a rifle length plus one. So when I can justify the cost for R&D, I'm going to order the 12.5 and the rifle plus one. I've always felt like the 6AR and the 6-ARC, they need that little bit of extra system length and shorter dwell time to really soften up that recoil impulse and keep that bolt locked as long as possible, because if the systems aren't set up properly on those, the higher end the higher performance projectiles and cartridges like 6-ARC, you run into issues with timing and destroying the brass and ejector marks and all kinds of crazy mess. But down the line, there will be a 6-ARC that is going to work right out of the box 110% and be supremely accurate. So
awesome.
So
well, we want to take a few moments to kind of discuss why we're going this direction with Argos, and to, kind of give people just a clear view of what's going on. And I know some folks have been asking about all of this, and some of you have known about it for a while, and some folks have been kind of privy to it and others haven't. So I don't want anybody to think that anything on the channel is going to be any different. We're still going to put out a ton of content, and we're going to be doing a lot of testing and things. So there are so many things left to film that I want to do. I mean, we've put out almost 2,000 videos.
I think it's over 2,000 at this point.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot of content that we put out over the years, and many of it, educational content we've put out to try to help the internet community at large. So it made sense to go this route because so many people ask us questions and what we prefer and what our recommendations are. So it makes sense for us to build the perfect tools that we feel are up to the task for whatever purpose. So it's just cool, and I can't wait to see how it goes. And we've got so many things that we're going to be doing, and I hope that a lot of folks have supported us over the years, and I really appreciate you being there for us. And gosh, if you want to support a group of people that actually gives a crap about your rights and wants to build tools for freedom for free people, by all means, Argos is definitely the gun to buy. Okay. Ding. It's like, hey, hi-ho, trashicorn.
Yep. Oh, man.
It's been a long road, but there's still a lot to do, and I appreciate those of you that supported us, and thanks for watching. Many more videos on the way. Anything else, Chad, before we head on?
I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah, nap time, like Sleepy Joe,
yeah.
Sleepy Chad.
I'm enjoying being away from the house and my children for a little while.
That's right. That's right.
It's nice.
Now you've got a whole bunch of children that you send out in boxes to the masses.
They are like
the
my little kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When one goes, you have to just, bye, child. We'll see you later.
Putting it up for adoption.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't sell guns. We just put guns up for adoption. Yeah, I hear you, man.
Bye.
Well, many more videos on the way. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. I know this is a long episode, but I really wanted to get into the weeds about what's going on with Argos. So now, if you're interested in picking up a gun or interested in what Chad's doing, now you know. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.